Hi guys, I wanted to read you a story about Easter. I know Easter has already passed, and you probably celebrated a little bit different this year, but I didn't want to let it pass without going over the real story of Easter so that you guys can remember it. Okay. Also in your bags this week, you guys will be making an Easter keychain and then it kind of goes with jelly beans. So you'll probably be wondering why you had those bag of jelly beans in there. So we'll be doing that later. And then there's also a packet in there that you can choose to do or you can not choose to do. It's up to you. But it goes over the colors of the jelly beans and what they mean. Okay, so here's the story. The first Easter. I picked this one out of my classroom because I really like the pictures. At Easter time, we think of fresh new grass and baby animals and warm golden sunshine. We think of baskets full of candy and brilliantly colored eggs, but most of all, at Easter time, we think about Jesus and all that he did for us. Look at this picture. It kind of reminds me of Walter a little bit because it's a camel. Jesus was born in a manger in Bethlehem on the first Christmas day. Angels told shepherds about the babe and they went to see the child. A great star shone above the manger, and its sparkling light led the Magi to baby Jesus. They came on camels and brought gifts, and they worshipped the newborn child, the Son of God. Many years before Jesus' birth, prophets had foretold that God's Son would come to earth and save the world from sin. Look at this picture. Who do you think that is in the picture? Yep, I think it's Jesus. When Jesus became a man, he chose 12 men to be his disciples. They traveled with Jesus and he taught them about God. Jesus healed the sick and crippled. Everywhere he went, many people gathered to hear him speak. Little children came to him also, and they greeted them with love and kindness. And now look at this picture. It's a little lamb. Watch what's going to happen on the next page. Oh, never mind. That's not the, never mind. Look at the donkey though. What do you think is this one? This one's going to be? What are they holding there? Yeah, this is Palm Sunday. When the time came for Jesus to fulfill the teachings of the prophets, he traveled to Jerusalem with his disciples. Jesus rode into the city on a donkey. People lined the streets to see him, and they laid palm branches on the ground to make a soft carpet for the donkey's feet. Jesus entered Jerusalem surrounded by love and glory on this, the first Palm Sunday. Here's the other picture. Oh, there's that sheep. And look over here. Jesus went to the temple where people worshipped. Inside, there were men buying and selling animals. Jesus was shocked and angry. He threw the money boxes into the air, and the men ran away. This made the temple leaders very angry. They wanted to get rid of Jesus. After the temple was clear, Jesus went inside to worship and to pray. So here they are selling things in the temple, and that's not what the temple's used for. Look at this picture here. I'll try to read while you look at the pictures. Inside the temple, Jesus talked about God's word with the chief priests and temple elders. They asked Jesus many questions and tried to trick him into saying something wrong. The priests asked Jesus what was God's most important commandment. Jesus answered, "Love God with all your heart." Then Jesus said, "But I give you a new commandment. You must love your neighbor as yourself." The priests were very angry. Here they are. More and more people listened to Jesus as he taught about God. The temple leaders and priests grew more afraid of Jesus and began to plot against him. They looked for a way to have Jesus arrested. What is he doing here, do you think? Yeah. On the night of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Jesus and his disciples gathered together for the traditional Passover meal. Jesus broke his bread, gave thanks to God, then passed it to his disciples. "This is my body, which is given for you. This do in remembrance of me," he said. Jesus then passed around the cup, saying, "This is my blood, which is shed for you." This was the last time Jesus would eat with his disciples, and he wanted them to remember him in the future by sharing the bread and the cup. This was Jesus' last supper. And we still celebrate that, but we call it communion. After supper, Jesus and his disciples went to the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus went off to pray. When he returned, his disciples had fallen asleep. Suddenly, the soldiers came to the garden. They carried torches and spears. The soldiers arrested Jesus. The disciples wanted to fight, but Jesus said, "Do not fight. God's will be done." There's a Roman guard there. The soldiers took Jesus to the court of Caiaphas, the high priest, where all the chief priests and elders had gathered. Caiaphas asked Jesus, "Are you Christ, the Son of God?" Jesus replied, "Yes, it is as you say." Caiaphas said, "Take him to Pilate. He will judge him." Each Passover, Pilate released one prisoner. He went out to the crowd and asked if he should release Jesus, but the people shouted for Jesus' death. Soldiers led Jesus to the hill of Golgotha where they crucified him. Even though it was afternoon, the sky grew black. Thunder roared and lightning pierced the dark sky. At the moment of Jesus' death, a powerful earthquake shook the ground. Before sunset, Jesus' friends took down his body and laid it in a tomb. A huge stone was rolled in front of the opening, and the soldier was sent to guard the tomb. So here's the tomb, and here would be the big rock that'd be in front of it. Early Sunday morning, 3 days after Jesus' death, his mother and 2 other women came to the tomb. They saw that the stone was rolled away, and when they entered the tomb, Jesus' body was gone. The woman cried out, "Who took Jesus away?" Suddenly, a man in all white appeared. "Why do you look for the living among the dead?" he asked. "Jesus is not here. He has risen." The 2 women were so glad that they ran to tell the disciples Jesus was alive. When they heard the news, 2 disciples returned to the tomb with Mary Magdalene. They entered the tomb and found the burial clothes folded neatly. They left the tomb feeling afraid because Jesus was gone. Mary Magdalene remained alone outside the tomb weeping. As she sobbed, she heard a man's voice ask her, "Why do you cry?" Look at this picture. What do you notice about the hands in this picture? They have holes in them. Mary Magdalene replied, "Sir, if you have taken Jesus away, please tell me where you've put him." The man whispered, "Mary." Mary lifted her head and saw that it was Jesus who stood before her. She ran to tell the disciples that she had seen Jesus. When Jesus appeared to his disciples, he said to them, "Go throughout the world, tell the people what you have seen and heard, and I will be there with you always, even until the end of time." This is why Christians celebrate Easter. We remember that Jesus gave up his life because he loved us, and on Easter morning we rejoice because Jesus Christ rose from the dead, and we know that because of him, we too will live. And that's the end of the story. Do you think we should celebrate Easter only on Easter, or do you think we should be thinking about these things throughout the year? Yeah, we should be thinking about it throughout the year, but I really like this book. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, bye.